No tennis game roundup for the NES is complete without Nintendo's own Tennis. Published in the US in late 1985, this game is as old as I am. It's another straightforward, no-nonsense game, but it has a little bit more going on than Quattro Sports Pro Tennis. No silly characters to select, no unique courts to choose from. You pretty much just hit singles or doubles, a skill level, and you're playing. At difficulty 1, I found the game to be very slow. At difficulty 5, the game's pretty intense. I honestly found levels 2 and 3 to be a comfortable, casual challenge. I couldn't find a way to really control where the serves land, but their speed seemed to be determined by the timing. The A button serves and is your primary ground stroke, volley, and smash swing, while the B button exclusively lobs. Lobbing actually works pretty well in this game too. At lower levels, it's great for a cheap point, and at higher levels, it's the only way to keep the AI away from the net. It's fucking crucial in this game to get your character facing the right direction before you swing. It's very easy to misjudge where the ball will land, so sometimes you might find your character swing a backhand when you needed a forehand. There's not much else to say, really. There are other games in this video that I'd rather play, but this one is serviceable if you happen to have it on hand and just want to play a tennis game. Your character can move reasonably quick at most difficulty levels, and you can even do a little sliding during your swing animation to help make contact with the ball. Most retro game players have probably tried this at one time or another. My rating? Not the worst. Rackets Rivals was a game only released in Europe in Rackets Rivals was a game only released in Europe in 1993 by Palcom, which was Konami's European subsidiary formed to get around some of Nintendo's licensing regulations. The title screen music is classic Konami cool, and the in-game graphics are nicely animated and look pretty decent overall, I think. I like the charge up your shot mechanic, as I mentioned earlier, and you have a lot of control over where your serve is going for once. Also, in the player entry menu, you can customize your character a bit. You can choose left or right-handed and play around with your stats. I recommend doing this first and putting some points into your character's speed stat so he's not limping around the court like an old man. If you just hit free play and you just play a match, you might think your character is handicapped. You can even choose to what degree the game helps you play the game. Usually, I don't think it's a great sign when a game offers something like this. From here, though, the game kind of starts to disappoint. The character's movement is lacking, making it tough to get in position early enough to charge up for a decently powerful shot. You could slightly alleviate this by pressing and holding the button while still moving your character, but if you haven't stopped before you release the button, the swing animation just may not play, and you'll just watch the ball limp past you. So I couldn't find a manual for the game, and because of that, I'm not really sure if there's a difference between using the A and B buttons in-game. If there is, it's subtle. Even after playing the practice mode for a bit, I had trouble consistently setting up for strong shots. Controlling the direction of the ball is limited at best. It seemed to be somewhat timing based like most of the previous games, but if you hit a direction on the D-pad just after releasing the A button, you could sort of direct it around the court a little bit. The timing is odd to get used to though. And due to the slow animations and difficult timing, the volleys were really unreliable, but maybe I'm just shitty at the game. In semi-auto mode, the game positions the character for you. All you have to do is wait for him to be in position, hold the shot button, and let it go at the right time. This makes the game really, really easy, and it's even less fun than in manual mode. It's just not very rewarding when you win matches in this mode, or at least it wasn't for me, as the game does most of the work for you, even if you hit a nice shot. In auto mode, the game basically plays itself. You control the serves, but the game will move your character and swing automatically. If you time pressing left or right on the D-pad just after he swings, you can still kind of influence the direction of the ball. This mode was rather pointless. Regardless of whether you select semi-auto or auto, you can still force your character to move around the court by using the D-pad. I really wanted to like this game. The tournaments progress from high school through university, which I thought was kind of unique. The gameplay is just a little slow, and the controls are lacking, and the voice clips are muddy and not as clear sounding as those in Racket Attack. My rating, not great, but maybe try it if you have patience. Family Tennis is a Japanese-only release from 1987 by Namco. It's part of a long-running series of family-named games, for which there are racing games, baseball games, pinball games, horse racing, even mahjong titles. Also, Super Family Grenade. Oh, Garande? I guess it's a skiing game. There are also several spiritual successors to Family Tennis, which I may cover in a later video. Anyway, there are a lot of characters to choose from. After looking over an English translation, they're pretty much all based on real players from the era. It's a surprisingly deep roster, too. The women featured are more well-known, but there's fewer of them. Research online seems to indicate that there are 4 categories of skills for which each player has strengths and weaknesses, even though the game doesn't really explicitly call this out. In practice, there's definitely a difference between who serves fast and who doesn't. The other attributes probably legitimately affect the gameplay a little too, but they were a little more subtle. Becker's serve is probably the best in the game. In fact, I preferred playing with Boris Becker to just about any other character in this game. The tournaments and courts available look pretty standard: French Open, Japan Open, US Open, and Wimbledon? I'm not sure if that's a misspelling or if that was intentional. Oh, and Cosmo, you know, for playing in tennis in space. Okay, Cosmo is actually a pretty cool novelty. The bounce is higher, so you have more time to get to the ball, and when it goes off the side of the court, it falls down through space and you can see Earth in the upper left corner. It's definitely the only tennis game I've played that has something like this. The gameplay itself is pretty nice too. You have to get your character a little closer to the ball than in some of the other games, so it took me a little time to get used to. The D-pad allows a pretty good amount of control over the ball, so it's easy to direct your serve and ground strokes around the court. If you hit select in-game, you can see a variety of stats for the match, which is a pretty nice addition. It's a shame this game never made it out west because it's rather enjoyable, especially compared to some of the other games here. It's colorful, it's cute, it plays really well, and it's not mind-numbingly slow. My rating? Pretty good. Like, one of the best. Oh God. Lastly, we've come to Top Players Tennis, or Chris Evert and Ivan Lendl in Top Players Tennis. That's even longer than Rad, Racket, Deluxe, whatever. This one hit the US in 1990 and even supports up to 4 players if you have an NES multi-tap device. The graphics aren't very impressive, but they are colorful and there's a little bit of variety in them at least. The gameplay itself is where the game excels. I found it to be excellent and very forgiving. You can see here that the ball floats around kind of a lot, and there's a pretty big window of time where you can actually hit the ball. It looks kind of funny, but I prefer this somewhat more arcadey style of play to the ultra-precise nature of other games like Racket Attack. The controls are pretty great. You can hit a harder serve with A or a slower one with B, similar to Family Tennis. Once you get the hang of the timing, though, you probably won't need to hit your safety serve very often. Once the rally started, A hits your normal shots, all the various shots, and B is relegated to lobs, similar to Nintendo's tennis. Top Players Tennis is another game where holding down the A button charges up your shot and you can hit a harder one. But here's the cool thing. According to the manual, holding up on the D-pad performs a topspin shot, and holding down performs a slice shot. In terms of speed, the slice seemed to be the fastest, and I used it a lot to hit winners up the line. The topspin shot was a little slower, but I think it was still a little faster than your normal shot. If you pay close attention, the sound design is pretty clever. Each of these shots has a slightly different sound. Listen. The direction of the ball seemed to be more controlled by where you hit the ball relative to your body, as well as the timing. I never really got the sense that holding left or right on the D-pad really controlled the ball very much, but maybe it did somewhat. Also, whether you win or lose a point, hitting the A button will make your character play a little cheer or a frustration animation. It doesn't do anything, but it's kind of a nice touch. If you select singles mode and choose boy, you can name your character and assign points to various attributes, kind of like in Rackets and Rivals. Then you have to play the ASMIC Open tournament in order to qualify for the Grand Slams. Unlike Rackets and Rivals, though, I was actually able to win matches and make legitimate progress without resorting to semi or auto mode. Thankfully, you only have to play best of 3 sets regardless of whether you select boy or girl. So, is there anything I didn't like? Well, yeah, I never really got the hang of the miracle shots mentioned in the manual. Pressing both A and B together made my character jump, and whoa. The AI uses these shots all the time, however, to get back balls that I thought were going to be clean winners. But I didn't really figure it out but a handful of times. Also, the computer is great at getting a ball back and just clipping the top of the net and winning lots of cheap points. The ball just dribbles over and it's almost always out of reach. You never see it coming either. This is probably one of the most irritating things, but I'll forgive it since I could still win matches and blast the ball around the court. The difficulty is also a bit inconsistent. I found that the semi-final matches were the most difficult. After winning the ASMIC Open, I lost in the semis of the French Open, apparently did not qualify for Wimbledon, and then I won the US Open. The finals in the ASMIC and US Open were a breeze. If you hit select during gameplay, you can check your character's status, ranking, get your password, and even get advice from Lendl or Evert. The advice isn't really useful though. Here, read these. All in all, a very worthwhile addition to the NES Tennis collection. My rating is that I highly recommend it. In summary, my top 3 picks are Racket Attack, Family Tennis, and Top Players Tennis. But which one is the best tennis game on the NES? I'm gonna have to go with Family Tennis, but Top Players Tennis is a close second. Both games are worth investing some time into, and Top Players might be more rewarding in the long run, since it has customizable characters, lots of different shots, and a lengthy but fun World Tour mode. Family Tennis, however, is the easiest one to pick up and play, but that kind of belies some of the deeper mechanics. You can actually ace the CPU. It had a fantastic roster of characters and its own World Tour mode. But I also like that it had better graphics. It's the one that held my attention the longest and made me want to keep playing more and more. Side note, Racket Attack has the best soundtrack of them all. It's got some sweet jams.
30, 40.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon, and if you're feeling generous, go ahead and like and subscribe. I'll be covering baseball games, football games, and more across a variety of systems as we go along. Anyway, so long.